Welcome to the demo of Stingray Traffic Manager accelerating Magento e-commerce store on clustered Zen server using the Riverbed Stingray integration with vFabric app director. The challenge application architects face today are twofold, one in terms of application provisioning, the other in terms of application delivery infrastructure. Application provisioning is complex and time-consuming task, and in the process proliferates IT assets, and mainly it's not cloud aware. Similarly, application delivery infrastructure is static in nature, and not all application delivery infrastructures are application aware and mainly not cloud aware. So how does Stingray and vFabric application director integration solve the problems application architects face today? Firstly, Stingray Traffic Manager is pure software designed from ground up for virtualization, so it is cloud ready. And secondly, it is advanced layer 7 capabilities makes it easier to integrate with application and provide that high performance applications need. On the other hand, vFabric App Director is an application provisioning tool which simplifies and automates the application provisioning. Now let's briefly look at vFabric Application Director's model-driven approach to application provisioning. First, you pick the application components from catalog of services. Then you create an application topology, which is referred to as application blueprint. Then you create the deployment profiles. For example, you can have a dev profile for development environment. And lastly, you deploy the application in relevant cloud, whether it is public or private. Now let's start the demo. Let's create the Stingray Traffic Manager service first. So the first thing I do is log into vFabric Application Director to create the Stingray Traffic Manager service. So I click on Manage Catalog Items. So we are going to catalog Stingray Traffic Manager as a service. So the first thing I do is create a tag called ADC. That is where the Stingray Traffic Manager would be associated with. So I created a tag ADC. And the next thing I'm going to do is create the service for Stingray Traffic Manager. So I click on Services tab and click on plus button. So I already have created a service, so I'll just show you what it is. So it's the name, version. I'm going to install 9.0, and I've associated ADC as the tag for Stingray Traffic Manager. And the supported components are scripts. These are the scripts that I'm going to use to install and configure Stingray Traffic Manager. Properties are basically the configuration name value pairs relevant for Stingray Traffic Manager configuration. These are all basically like node IPs, node ports. The next component is actions, which are basically a couple of scripts: install script and configuration script. The install script basically downloads the software and installs the Stingray Traffic Manager. The configuration script, on the other hand, configures the Stingray Traffic Manager based on the properties we have defined earlier, as I showed in the previous screen. Now if you look down below, I have specific configuration for optimizer feature. So this script is going to configure or enable optimizer functionality on Stingray. And click OK, and we are done with Stingray. So we just finished creating Stingray Traffic Manager as a service. Now we are going to create application blueprint. Now we are going to create the application blueprint by clicking on the application tab at the top and clicking plus button. Now I've already assumed that we have installed Zen clusters. Now we are dragging CentOS to host the Stingray Traffic Manager. So I'll give it a name, LB, and I'll fill in the description. The description is Stingray Traffic Manager instance. Now once I have done this, I'm going to drag Stingray Traffic Manager as a service that we created in step 1, and then I'm going to link Stingray Traffic Manager to Zen cluster. So what it means is, first the Zen cluster need to be installed before I install Stingray Traffic Manager. Now here you see I have the properties that we had defined when we created Stingray Traffic Manager as a service. So you can change the values of those properties when you're creating the blueprint. So you still have an option to change the configuration parameters. So basically I am filling in the node IPs, which I'm pulling it from the Zen node clusters, and then the URL for the application. So once that is done, I'm saving it. So we just created the blueprint. So the next process is to deploy the application blueprint we just created. So let's deploy the application by clicking on the deployment button on the top. And the first thing I do is create a profile. So I'll name it as production deployment, assuming that it is a production deployment. So once I click that, I've been taken to next screen where you basically map your cloud, where is you're going to deploy this blueprint. And you still have an option here to change the application properties. For example, I can change the license file name or the admin password for Stingray Traffic Manager when it is deployed in the cloud. So once that is done, I click on next. And click next and then click deploy to deploy the application. So once the application is deployed, I can click on the execution plan and check out relevant logs for each component. So I'll show you the Stingray Traffic Manager log, which was basically a way to troubleshoot if the deployment was not successful. So it's basically std out, whatever is on the screen, you logged it. So if you look at it now, it just took 11 minutes to complete the deployment. Now let's see how the user experience would be with Stingray Traffic Manager. So once the application is deployed, I'm going to look at the Stingray Traffic Manager's IP address and map it to my URL of the application that is deployed. So I go to my browser, and I've already started HTTP watch, and go to the application URL, which is mapped to the Stingray's address. Now the application is loaded, and it just took 2 seconds. That's it. Just 2 seconds to download the page. Now let's see, with the optimizer feature turned off, how my website's performance looks like. So I'm going to turn off the optimizer performance by doing a query string with optimizer off, and if you look at it, the page is downloading, and it is complete. So from the user perspective, obviously it was slow. Let's see how slow it was. So it took 6 seconds and 49 objects and 720 kilobytes of data. If you look at it and compare it with Stingray Optimizer feature turned on, if you look at it, it just downloaded the page in 2 seconds with 26 objects. It's almost reduced the number of objects by half, and the bandwidth also reduced by half. So it's pretty impressive. So in conclusion, the Stingray and vFabric application director integration benefits are the provisioning and scale multi-tier applications faster and smarter in hybrid cloud environment. As you just saw, it took just 11 minutes to deploy a complex 3-tier application. It provides a high level of application portability across cloud services, whether it be private or public cloud. And with Stingray Traffic Manager, to accelerate the application performance and load web pages up to 4 times faster. In this case, you saw that it reduced the bandwidth by 50%. And with out-of-the-box blueprints, you can have rapid and repeatable deployments of applications.